Okay, consciousness. I promised you magic and mystery when I started speaking about consciousness many hours ago. Today we will have them. This awakening, this great awakening that we are all in, this shift from fear to love over the whole earth. Where are we with it? Well, as of solstice, December solstice, everything has changed. It looks like business as usual when you look out there, but it isn't actually. Up until now, for thousands of years, the fear impulse has been uppermost. Let's spell fear with a tiny little f. And what happened, and all of us struggling to connect with the love modes and the love impulse have had a rough time. What's happened is that at this point, the love impulse is actually in charge. And it's provoking the fear to come up as fear has never come up before. Everybody is being challenged to move out of fear and into the love. On December 22nd, the day after the winter solstice, we entered a new age. And we're in a new age, although it doesn't look like it, but we are. Every time I use the term love, spell it with a capital L, because that's a principle that we're going to talk about today, among other things. We are in a new age, and a new age requires new ideas, new ways of looking at things. I have been talking about these immense storms that are devastating the countries. Drought everywhere, famine, disease, the disintegration of the coral reefs, the cutting of the rainforest, millions of species going extinct every week. And I have pointed out to you that actually all these disappearing species are part of our life support systems, and we destroy them at our peril. Okay, these great storms. Everybody knows there's something the matter with the weather. Politicians cannot lie about it anymore. Ordinary people everywhere are waking up to the need for new concepts. People everywhere are saying, we must find other ways to think. There's something wrong with the way we're thinking about the planet. And I say that all of these environmental catastrophes going on all around us are the severest indictment of the whole of human civilization. All of our attitudes, our ideas, our practices, they're called into question by the magnitude of what's going down on the planet right now, of the destruction that we're becoming aware of, and they're called into question by it. And so I say these environmental catastrophes that are just beginning to occur are a call to rethink ourselves at just about every level. Let's start with some simple questions like who are we, who and what are we, and who and what is the earth? And so I begin with this term consciousness. Consciousness has appeared as a term and a problem in modern science. Most scientists believe that it can be solved by existing principles, that it can be explained by existing scientific principles. I call them loosely, just roughly, matter and mechanism. Our matter-mechanism technological mindset is somehow going to produce consciousness. I say consciousness cannot be explained by any existing scientific principles. It calls all of them into question, principles that have not changed for thousands of years. And consciousness points to a new universe picture where consciousness and not matter or matter and energy is the right fundamental term and the true basis of the universe. And so I'm proposing a new Copernican revolution among our fundamental terms. Up until now, we have all been assuming that matter and mechanism is what's basic to the universe. And at the end of evolution in ourselves and a few of the higher animals, mysteriously, matter attains, quote, a certain state of complexity where it produces consciousness. I say it's all just the other way around, that consciousness is the right fundamental term. Consciousness is first, matter is second. Consciousness is there from the very beginning in the universe. Everything has it, and all of the true explanatory principles are in it. And so I'm offering the world a simple and single new principle for understanding and explaining just about everything, this term consciousness. Descartes divided the whole universe into two kinds of substances, mind and matter. God and human beings had mind, and everything else is just matter. And what is matter? It's simply the weighable, the extended in space and time, utterly devoid of inner life. The measurable science has been, this was a masterstroke for developing science. It let science get off the ground without having to worry about the inner life of animals or trees. But it was a disaster for the earth, as you can guess. She who had once been worshipped as a goddess, almost overnight lost every aspect of her divinity and became just things, machinery, cleverly wired machines, kind of robots. And if we're in deep trouble with the earth, it's because this is the way we've thought for a very long time. Okay, what I'm doing in the face of this dualism is proposing a new principle. Ever since Descartes formulated dualism, people have been trying to get rid of it. They classically, in science, get rid of it by one, getting rid of God, and then secondly, trying to explain everything in terms of matter. This will not work. It will not work. The facts that are emerging about consciousness say that you cannot do this. I have already mentioned the near-death experience. There are many other facts about consciousness which a great many scientists simply push under the rug because they don't want to challenge their fundamental premises or their funding sources. But our funding sources actually are guiding a lot of present-day thinking. I say this will not work, and especially clear in the near-death experience. The belief of almost all scientists and ordinary people is that consciousness is something produced by neurons, only in us. Well, in the near-death experience, the patient's body in the bed is brain dead. All EEG signs cease, but the patient is alive and well, i.e. conscious, at the ceiling, able to watch the doctors reading over his body below, working over the body below, and hear what they say, and read dials that he could never have seen from the bed. Sometimes to see what's going on in the corridor outside, sometimes in other rooms. So there's consciousness up there at the ceiling, able to see without eyes, hear without ears, think about a brain. It's quite astonishing. Obviously, it can't be mere a byproduct of brain activity produced by neurons. It's quite separable. Consciousness is obviously something separable from the body, and it's a reality in its own right. And so, based on the near-death experience and other experiences, I flip the order of priorities, that consciousness is in fact the basis of the universe. We are exactly in the position of Copernicus. Copernicus was making his calculations on the basis of an assumption that the sun was the center of the universe. No, the earth was the center of the universe. We have gotten this from the Greeks. The earth is the center of the universe, and everything else, the sun and the stars, revolved around it. His calculations were becoming so unwieldy, using Ptolemaic epicycles, that finally, in great exasperation, he decided to try it the other way around. He put the sun in the center and made the Earth orbit the sun. And lo, all of his data fell neatly into place. I say that's where we are with consciousness. Everybody has been assuming that consciousness is something that can be produced by matter, and it only comes at the end of evolution in us. I say we are enmeshed in the whole of science and the modern world in endless epicycles, endless Ptolemaic epicycles. It's time to turn the whole thing around and try it the other way. And so I'm suggesting to each one of you, take this term consciousness and let it be your light in dark times, because it's the key to everything. Okay, now I laid out all of this reasoning in earlier talks. I'm just reminding you of it. And then I take this term consciousness as the new principle of the universe, and I reinterpret much of the data of modern science using it, like quantum mechanics, quantum physics. What are physicists looking at? Well, we're looking at consciousness going in and out of physical form in the quantum world. Consciousness going in and out of physical form, and we're actually looking at where the Cartesian universe intersects with the true universe. The Cartesian universe is our little material mindset that the world around us is devoid of any inner life whatsoever or intelligence. It's the discrete, the separate and disconnected, devoid of inner life. Everything is separate from each other. We're just looking out at things. It's a dead universe. It's a dead earth, and we have fabricated a dead world around it. Okay, so here's a new principle. First of all, I have done a major reinterpretation of most of modern science. And now, what follows? Can we say more about this universe? Well, what does it mean? That's the question. First of all, it provides a whole new Earth picture. The destruction of the planet is being fueled by this scientific image of nature as something devoid of inner life and consciousness. We need to, but the first thing that the switch to consciousness means is the Earth has consciousness. Every being on the Earth has consciousness. Not our consciousness, but consciousness nevertheless. Consciousness is the kind of thing that has field properties. And so what we're looking at in the Earth is a continuum of many forms of interacting consciousness, of which our own is one. The importance of consciousness is that when the great thinkers of the past have denied consciousness to matter, then they hold it in contempt. It's something to be put down, to be trampled underfoot, basically, by any ways that men saw fit. It's something to be held in contempt because it is devoid of intelligence. Well, this restores the Earth and matter to a slightly more exalted place. Every being has consciousness. Even the least little bit of matter has consciousness. And so we rewrite the whole of science and the scientific image of nature right back into the pre-Socratics, like Democritus, who held an early theory of the atoms, or Pythagoras, or all of these great lights. The chance and necessity, matter and mechanism, universe goes way, way back. It's a very habitual form of human thinking. And it's nothing more than, at this point, a convenient fiction. And it's time to get out of it. First corollary. Everything on the planet has consciousness. Open your eyes. It's so obvious when you realize this, that how could we have missed it? Okay. And so we rewrite the Earth. Now, when you rewrite the earth, you rewrite everything connected with the earth. And guess what they are? Well, the native people, the earth herself, the feminine, women. The consciousness universe has a place for women and the feminine, as the old matter mechanism, mechanical mindset never had a place for women. Women were simply put down along with the earth, something to be trampled underfoot as men saw fit. We come out of a long tradition of being told we are the property of men, and to be told our place and our nature by the male mind. And so when you rewrite the earth, you rewrite everything that has been put down. And of course, along with women, sex, the body, the emotions, the passions, and the feminine. The feminine I always spell with a capital F, because this is a new principle that is just as important as the term consciousness. And this emerging universe picture that I'm sketching has a place for all that the great tradition, the high culture of the West especially, has buried, has shoved down out of sight and put down in the favor of male reason, basically, high in the head. The great philosophers have never been able to make the connection between the life of the mind and the life of the planet. They have worshipped the god of reason, and reason has come down, has become just totally sterile in the modern world. It's this pathetic little rationality, matter mechanism mindset everywhere, because we're a technological world. It's an expression of the matter mechanism mindset. And women, okay. And so the consciousness universe has a place for women, the feminine, the native people, the mystics, the shamans. It has a place for them. And so I rewrite gender in a way that should irritate just about everyone. Gender. The male mind has been asserting its superiority to every other being ever since it got here. But the truth is that the male is the separated, fear-based form who functions by control. This is the source of what puzzles women so much, that the male ego, which as Virginia Woolf described it, like the giant beech tree, kills everything that grows in its shade. This is the reason that the male mind must be constantly talking about itself, flattering itself, giving itself medals. And this mindset, this male mind, floats itself and its sense of identity by despising women, the earth, and the native people. True power, well, first of all, you want to say those great big muscular men, fear-based. The whole male physique is fear-based, adapted for flight or fight. The need to be able to protect mate and children from other males. The whole male physique is fear-based. This doesn't mean that love cannot be present. We all know men who are loving. But the truth is that that's the basis, and that's the primary impulse, and love is something grafted onto that, and actually it has a lot to do with the feminine. When men come loving, we say they have a feminine side. Now, the female is love-based. The female is the love-based form, and true power belongs to the women. Now, I'm not saying anything that everyone does not already know, but these things need to be said, and their implications need to be realized. True power belongs to women, and we all know this, and the hope of the ages is that we are not just in this great shift from fear to love, we are in a time of the reappearance of the feminine principle. The Piscean age has ended, and it's been an age of great male thinkers and male thought traditions male ways of thinking and doing. We are now in the Aquarian age, for one thing, that is to be about the feminine. We're in it. And so along with the love impulse being uppermost, the feminine impulse is also moving into high visibility. And women are coming forth out of the shades and shadows of history to take their place on the historical stage, to make the difficult political decisions, to bring out their rethinking of the earth. Now, the feminine, the masculine, I would say the Cartesian universe is very much the elaboration of a male mind, and it's a very convenient and happy way of thinking for our own male ways. I have them too. The women of today are just as good at doing this kind of rational stuff as the men are. But the women's experience is of oneness. The deepest experience of the native people, the feminine, and women is oneness, not the discrete, separate, disconnected little analytic view of matter. Consciousness has field properties, and so it has a place for this experience of oneness. That's what the native people experience, and they can experience their connection with the earth. And this is something that we have all lost. The great philosophers don't seem to have known a thing about it. When I ask myself why, I think, well, most of the great philosophers were the original armored man. They can't feel anything, they can only think. But I have been sketching out a universe in which we have monumental connections with everything around us. And this universe has a place for women's traditional ways of knowing, of being, of experiencing, and they are the ways of the feminine. And these ways are outcast modes. They have been buried under the history, under male history, basically, by the male thinkers. And this great high tradition has run its course, reason in the modern world, now destroying its own life support systems. That's a pretty good definition of insanity. And it's time we radically rethink about ourselves in the light of this term consciousness. The state of the earth requires new ways of thinking. And the hope for the planet is that, hey boys, the women are here, move over. And that the feminine is coming in and has a place in men as well as in women. It's time for men to stop this kind of male games in which the planet is drowning, and this kind of macho posturing that's going on the floor of the Congress, and embrace the feminine principle and their own nurturing and caring feminine sides. And there are men everywhere who are doing this. It's time for the male to become a man of heart that honors women and the earth. And if we are to make a change in our relationship to the earth, it's going to be possible because actually the women are here. We think differently than the men. We have been traditionally identified with the earth and shared her fate. Heaven is divine, earth is not. Man is divine, woman isn't. Okay, so I'm calling for new ways to think about the earth, and here are the first two new principles: consciousness and its place for the feminine. These are all capital letters because they're the new terms. Just capitalize the first one. Okay, this universe, the consciousness universe, has a place for women. It has a place for oneness, for the traditional experience of the indigenous people and the feminine, the experience of oneness, the mystics. Socrates says somewhere, many are the thyrsus bearers, few the mystics. What's unique about the mystics? Well, this is the universe that the mystics know. And mystics can connect with this kind of universe in a way that the rational mind cannot. And so I reminded you of what the ancient shaman of Mexico said. all that keeps us in the rational illusion, and this dominates our world, the rational illusion is our incessant talk, and when not talking, the inner dialogue. And these shaman also say, get your head into magic and keep it there. Okay, magic and mystery. This consciousness universe has a place for reincarnation. I have spelled out what this means, not the evidence for reincarnation, you can find it everywhere, but what it means. And one of the things reincarnation means is that we rewrite the human sense of identity, the human self-image, our notions of human identity. We come out of a tradition of thinking human beings also are just matter, as Descartes considered the rest of nature. Human beings are matter, and we are driven by genes, drives, and childhood. We're the victims of genes, drives, and childhood. Well, the truth of reincarnation means that we are immortal spiritual beings who come to Earth for a short period, really in cosmic terms, to realize on Earth certain abilities, certain goals. We have reasons for being here. So do all the animals and the trees. They also reincarnate. What does this mean? Well, we're looking at spiritual beings in physical form. We're looking at consciousness in physical form. Spiritual beings like ourselves. And so human existence is laced by deep purposes. Well, for most of us, they're unconscious. They're at the soul level. And it's time to, since these are momentous and radical moments in our history, it's time to find out why we're all here. And so there's the first plank I'm putting in a new theory of human identity is, one, consciousness is not a byproduct of material processes. It's something in its own right. Two, everything has it. And in fact, everything is an expression of consciousness. And three, we are eternal, immortal beings who reincarnate. Reincarnation was the centerpiece of Jesus' teaching. And that's why, because once you know who you are, everything looks completely different, and you don't feel nearly as powerless as you did before. We are obviously very strong, very powerful human beings who have come here for a reason. We know what we're doing here, and we've just been misled. Also, reincarnation means there's a deep moral order between ourselves and the earth. We are free, we are responsible, and we are accountable. It's time to wake up to the truth of who we are. Okay, now for the fun, the magic and mystery. I have mentioned love because it's the feminine impulse. I've mentioned love because it's appearing on the planet at this time, coming up for visibility. That it's not some simple byproduct of brain activity. It doesn't belong to matter and mechanism. There's no way to get love out of matter and mechanism. Chance and necessity, bored feet, all the ways we think. What about love? I've said it's behind and within the whole reincarnational process. We have time. Take your time. We're here to learn lessons. You have the right to slow things down. Nobody's judging you. There's a deep kind of relaxation about reincarnation and being a part of a reincarnational cycle of lives. We can go at our own speed. We're meant to try things and make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes. Okay, enough of that. I mentioned there's a love. Now, can anything else be said about this love? Well, yes, it can. And so now, before we desecrate the planet any more than we have, I'm going to say something about spirit. The Cartesian universe is dualistic. There are two terms, as befits the Piscean age, two fish swimming in apparently opposite directions. Matter and mind, for Descartes. Ever since Descartes formulated it, people have been trying to get rid of it, mainly by reducing mind to matter. This will not work. I say it's the other way around, that consciousness is the fundamental term. There is only one term for the universe. It is not mind and matter. It is consciousness. The universe consists of two forms of consciousness. Consciousness in form and consciousness formless. In form is the whole physical reality of our little physical universe. Consciousness formless is not in physical reality. It's all around us. Okay, spirit. The consciousness universe has a place for religion, as the matter and mechanism universe did not. But the last 300 years have probably been the most wretched for spiritual people in the whole of human history, because Cartesian materialism was setting in. The consciousness universe has a place for religion. And it also has radical theological and religious implications. It has a place for the fundamental term of all religion, spirit. In the consciousness universe, this term consciousness opens right into the fundamental term of every religion, spirit, as simply infinite consciousness. Every being, every aspect of existence and expression of this consciousness, divine and sacred throughout. We are looking not just at conscious beings, not just at consciousness. The whole of reality comes to be out of a divine consciousness. This divine consciousness is the stuff of the universe. It goes into form, it comes out of form. There is only one term for the universe. It actually is this term spirit. Spirit is simply infinite consciousness, and it's everywhere, and it's in everything. And so there is a place for the truth of all religion, i.e. spirit, in the consciousness universe. And we have to rewrite that universe. I am proposing that spirit is the fundamental term for the universe. We get there via consciousness. And spirit adds to our emerging picture of the consciousness universe the fact that it is divine and sacred throughout, because this is the nature of consciousness, and it's the nature of infinite consciousness. Now, consciousness is a fine, fresh term through which to look at the truth of religion. Okay, what does it mean? The male mind edits. Our religious tradition begins with the idea that only some of us are good. And then only some parts of us are good, our light side. Everything else is to be buried. And then God only likes you, Spirit only likes you, He only likes the good parts. The rest, Spirit disapproves of. Sex, irritation, anger, all the stuff that's been turned into something not very acceptable. Spirit. Everything composed of spirit. Spirit in form, spirit formless. If this is so, Everything is divine and sacred. We have a divine light side, we have a divine dark side. There isn't anything in creation that is not sacred. And so we need to look at the earth new ways. Okay. In Western tradition, spirit has a name. The name that God gave to Moses. When Moses said, well, I'm supposed to go and get the Hebrews out of the Israelites out of Egypt. Who do I say sent me? Wait a minute. Okay. And the answer is, tell them I am sent you. I am the name of spirit. Sometimes also translated from Genesis as, I am who I will be. In other words, spirit reveals itself in its creations. At the Gospels, Jesus came as an incarnation of divinity. The Gospels ring with, I am the Good Shepherd, I am the true vine, I am the way, the truth, and the light. What this means is the very source of the universe is in us. It's not back there in the matter mechanism universe kick-starting the process. It's right here. It's within us. We all have access to our own divine I am. And spirituality, as I've said, has something to do with connecting with this powerful name of the universe, of the source of the very source of the universe within us. Okay, now let that sink in a minute. It is all divine. It is all sacred throughout. And so this term consciousness actually permits a whole new revelation of divinity. Not up there, not back there, not wholly other, but right here, in everything and all around us. It's everywhere. And you cannot, people talk about their search for God. You can't miss God. There's only spirit, there isn't anything else. And so the native people had it right. And the universe that I'm spelling out, the native people know this universe. And they say everything has its own spirit, its own sense of self, its own reason for being, and it is an embodiment of spirit with a capital S. Spirit is all around us. And so a native elder, why would I build a temple to my God when I can go out in nature and meet him face to face? Okay, it's all around us. The earth is divine and sacred throughout, a divine and sacred being, as the ancient matriarchies knew, as the ancient feminine mystery schools that Plato denied and derailed knew. It's all around us. The only thing that is keeping us from the total experience of the divine energy are our concepts, our ideas. Our ideas have an enormous power to keep reality out. Everybody makes, with our typical little matter mechanism mindset, everyone makes religious experience of divinity at some point, and promptly our Cartesian selves deny it. I am telling you that in our houses are the man-made world, full of things. Generally some part of everything in our houses comes from the earth. Our houses are full of things. They are some part of the earth killed, actually. We live in a dead space for the most part, except for pets and ideas and plants. Walk out of the universe, walk out of your back door into fields and trees. You are in God's world. That is God's world. And the native people knew spirit is everywhere in that world and will come to you from any part of that world. Okay. The consciousness universe has a place for spirit as simply infinite consciousness. This consciousness is all around us. It's not just up in heaven. It's not just in the beginning. This is a radically new picture of divinity. Spirit also has a place for the essential, most basic, and incredible insight of all religion that has virtually been smothered by religious tradition. Spirit is love. Now, what does this mean? Spirit is love. This love is not an emotion. It's a great oneness. The love that spirit is oneness. Now, this is something to be experienced. When you want to find spirit, don't think, sink. Let yourself go, and because the spirit is within you, spirit is all around you, it's in the beings around you, it's in the invisible realms around you. In the consciousness universe, science has no monopoly on knowing. There are other ways of knowing besides weighing and measuring. And no amount of weighing and measuring is ever going to reveal what the source of the personality or where the bright spirits of animals come from. Science has no monopoly on knowing. And religion has no monopoly on spirit. Spirit is everywhere. Spirit is the most ultimate and true term for the universe, not just for religious people, but for science as well. This is the nature of the basic principle of the universe. And out of that principle has come creation, a reality that's hospitable to every being who inhabits it. Only human beings desecrate this world, which is hardly what it is to be made in the image of God. To be made in the image of God is to honor every living being and to assist it and help it and allow it to flourish. Now, here's a new picture of spirit, of who, what, and where spirit is. Walk out, live in my realm for a minute. I live in the desert of the Southwest at 7,000 feet. I walk out into mystical experience. The minute you realize what you're looking at and what should be available to us, you're home free. Go out, drop your boundaries, let your boundaries go. Settle into spirit. Spirit is the ultimate term for the universe. It's a part of every discipline in their search for meaning and truth. It's available to everyone, everywhere. You can find oneness in a city street, but you know where the best incarnation of oneness is? It's the earth. Just walk out, let your boundaries go, see what you can find out. Now this is going to rewrite a lot of our religious picture. First of all, if we are, well, who are we then? Who are the beings around us? Well, in fact, we're all expressions of spirit. In fact, we're all incarnations of spirit. Not an image, not an imitation, but the real article. We are spirit in physical form, as are the trees and the animals. The whole of creation is divine and sacred throughout. And we come out of a long tradition of male thinking that has to keep God up there, and we require an army of male priests to get us connected. It's not like that. You walk out, God is in, Spirit is in the ground under your feet. We're all incarnations of Spirit. Now, religious tradition has so put down the earth, as we spoke about the great lie that is behind all of the thought traditions that human beings have elaborated, namely the pretense that we are separate from the planet, that we have no connection. So, of course, religious tradition has had a hard time overcoming this separation because it has a vested interest in keeping the earth at length. So more recent church tradition speaks about, well, God is immanent in nature. Nature is one thing, and then there's a little presence of Spirit in it. Well, it isn't like that. Spirit is everything. And the earth and all beings on the earth are incarnations and expressions of Spirit. The earth is not one thing in which Spirit indwells. It is an incarnation of Spirit. Okay, and so we rewrite the whole of creation. Men have killed creation, first in concepts, now in a lived life. We have fabricated around ourselves dead terms for the universe and the earth, dead ways of thinking, a dead world. There it is on the nightly news. If you want to sleep well, go for a walk on the planet before you go to bed. If you want to have a wretched night, listen to the news before you go to bed. The man-made world and the God-made world, God's world, are in collision at this point. And the catastrophe that human beings have created for the environment and for ourselves, and all of this separated, fear-based ways of thinking and being and doing, have so alienated us from any connection with the planet whatsoever, let alone Spirit in the earth. But the earth is actually, well, she's our life support system, something we have to realize. Everything is connected, another thing we have to realize. And then we have to realize she's our nearest vantage point on the universe. If we are trashing the planet because of the ways we think about the universe, then our theories of the universe are false, because we and the earth are a part of the universe. And it's time for human beings to just radically wake up. We are in a place in our history where all of our religious notions can change. I would say Spirit is everything, Spirit is love, and Spirit is here. You can go out and experience this, and that's all you need to know about your life. That's about all the basic fundamentals you need to know. You can settle into Spirit well below the level of mind. How do we know Spirit? Well, we know Spirit through our bodies, our senses, our souls, our spirits, our deep psyches. We are immersed in Spirit. We are just unaware of the connection all around us. But we are in connection, and you can feel the connection. You cannot see Spirit, but you can feel Spirit. When you let your boundaries go, don't take fear with you. The long male-dominated tradition has made fundamental reality something to be feared. It's not. And drop your fear at the door. Go out, take yourself as the microscope and the telescope, see what you can find out. Spirit is everywhere. It will come to you from anywhere. It will come from above. It will come from the earth. It's spiritual, it's sexual, it's creative, it's intelligent. It is one. One, I would say, Spirit is one, and the love that Spirit is a great oneness. You can experience this when you open yourself to its possibility. And like reincarnation, it is another fundamental reality. Men killed creation, first in concepts, i.e. matter, and then now in the lived life where we are tearing through the whole fabric of creation at our peril. Human beings are going to learn their lessons here. If not the obvious, then why the hard ways? What we have done, what I'm doing with these talks, I've restored to nature its very animating principle. Men killed creation when they stripped consciousness from it. I have restored, and we are restoring consciousness to the whole of creation. That is to restore the animating principle. The living God, the living Spirit is everywhere. Everything is a part of it. It will come to you from any part of creation. Expect it. Now, if religious people ever suspected this deepest truth of the universe and the earth and ourselves, that we are all incarnations of spirit, they would turn off the TV and get out of their churches and be out there. Spirit is everywhere. The minute you realize this and know this, you can start feeling it. People call it the field. Lynn McTaggart's written a book called The Field. Consciousness is in the deepest reality of the consciousness universe is that it's a great oneness among all beings. And this oneness is experienceable as love, as the love-light energy that is all around us. Open yourself to it. Call in the love-light energy. That's what spirit, that's one of the ways you can feel spirit. There are others. There are infinite ways. So it's a pretty exciting earth that we live in, you know. It's not a dead thing. It's not commodities and resources to be ripped off. It's an incarnation of spirit. And the archetypes that Jung described, symbols of the collective unconscious, the archetypes are ways in which we focus and bring in spirit. Now, this means that creation is not, the spirit is not like the God of Aristotle or Genesis, someone who creates the universe and the earth and is outside of creation looking on. Creation is spirit. It's spirit in form, spirit formless. The native people know this. They have always known it. And I would say that the native concept of spirit, the gift surely of North America to philosophy, the native concept of spirit is the equivalent of the white man's mathematics. And at this point in our history, it's about recovering for ourselves the native senses of the earth and marrying it with the white man's technology. The white man has always looked down on the native people. The English white man used to refer to it as the indigenous people, the native people, as, quote, white man's burden. Something that they must either stamp out or convert into the white man's ways of thinking. What is becoming apparently obvious is that the real parasite of the planet and the real burden on the whole of creation has been the white man and all his minions and all of his imitators, which is pretty much our male ways of thinking in the modern world. They are the burden on the planet. And so it's appropriate that women should be stepping forth out of the shades and shadows and into the light of this historical day, that historically women have been put down along with the earth and shared her fate. And women have been put down, their ways of knowing, their ways of being. The human race is struggling to leave behind its long, dark winter of fear and separation, which are very typical of male ways of being, and it is struggling to move into springtime of love and connectedness. And if this can happen, it has a lot to do with the feminine coming in and the women finally being recognized as here, as valid, and as having ways of thinking and being that the male mind has known very little about. Now, of course, Eastern tradition does have these kind of concepts under other names, but these days everybody is adept at technological thinking, which is the reason that the modern world stinks of death. It comes out of a long tradition which has been devoted to shoring up a lie, that we're separate from creation, and busily elaborating concepts that make sure we're separated from creation. We have taken these concepts down. They are barricades and barriers between us and the earth, and between us and divinity. And so here's a new earth picture. The basis of all religion is love. The truth of reality all around us is love. There is only one practice in life, one principle. It is love. The male-dominated, the man-made religions, the male-dominated religions at this point are enormously complicated bodies of propositions and statements and dogma and doctrine. It's all, the whole thing is really so simple that it's just laughable. Spirit is everywhere. Everybody knows this. Children know this. The animals know this. And so just who are these two cats that barrel in and out, just as interested in me as I am in them? They're expressions of spirit. They're not cleverly wired machines. They're not just arrangements of molecules and atoms. They're what arranges them. They're little incarnations and embodiments of spirit. The trees, beautiful, pure incarnations of spirit, in a way human beings probably can never even hope to be. And the stars, spiritual beings in physical form. Spirit is a part of the whole of reality, and is the whole of reality. Sunset and dawn, the rain, the light, the ground under your feet, the winds. Spirit in 1,000, manifesting itself in 1,000 physical forms. It's all one. And this has another implication. If we are, in fact, incarnations of spirit, then all of spirit's powers must be available to us. And I dare say they are. Something that religious authorities do not want anyone to know. If the great I am of spirit, the very source of the universe, is within us, then we have access to all of spirit's powers. There's a trick. 1, you need to know it's a possibility. 2, you need to ask for them. We struggle with our lives. We're blown from one thing to another thing. We've lost our earth connection. With our earth connection, we've lost our real connection to spirit. And if we're going to come to our sanity and our senses, we have to recover both of them. Okay, there they are. Earth is an embodiment of consciousness. Earth is an embodiment of spirit. This is the universe that Jesus knew. Jesus knew this universe, so did the Buddha before him. For the most part, the great philosophers have missed it. For the most part, all the modern world has missed it. This is the universe that Jesus knew. Jesus' ancient Aramaic prayer, translated as the Lord's Prayer, actually ends with the words, till oneness guide all. Until oneness guide all. The Gospel of John At the Last Supper, Jesus says to the Father, you living in me, I living in you, we living in them. That is the reality that the mystics know. You living in me, I living in you, reality. This is available for everyone. All I'm doing today is reminding you that you have all of these mystical possibilities that you have dropped along the way because the proponents of the dead world have convinced you that all of these things are impossible. Jesus knew that universe. At the end of the Gospel of St. John, where Jesus at the Last Supper, what was he really saying when he said, this is my body, this is my blood? He was teaching that the Spirit is in all things. The Spirit is in the body, the Spirit is in the blood. That was the real heart of Jesus' teaching. The secret traditions, what would we call them? The esoteric traditions of Christianity have preserved certain truths that they have never made known to other people outside a little circle of a select few. But one of the things that certainly one arm of these traditions say is the great hidden teaching of Jesus was world spirit, or the spirit of the world. They don't realize what it means. I mean, what does it mean? Well, I'm trying to spell it out. Spirit should be available everywhere, and is, and all of our faculties and ways of knowing and being, and all of our true powers should be something we can all realize, and we can. This is the universe that Jesus knew, that the Buddha also knew. This is the universe that has a place for reincarnation, the feminine, women, and the earth, all of which have been lost along the way, thanks to this great lie that the high cultures of the West and the East have had to keep firmly in place, because otherwise they wouldn't know who we were. They no longer. It's time for all of these old notions to go, and so now there's a new revelation of divinity. Spirit is the fundamental term for the universe, made possible via this term consciousness. We can say a whole lot more about this because of the nice clear lens of the term consciousness. Consciousness, spirit is a part of all disciplines, should be a part of all disciplines. Everyone must make their own love nest in the divine being. That's what I would say. This is the universe that Jesus knew and the Buddha knew, that spiritual traditions have various ways of describing, but there are fuller and fuller ways becoming available. And this term consciousness enables us to make a new revelation of spirit, of who, what, and where spirit is. People are waking up. People everywhere are realizing that the ways in which our ideas kill our experience and kill our concepts of the world around us. More and more people these days are starting to see that animals are like people, that they're little persons down there under their little fuzzy coats, that they do a lot of the same things we do. You can see a cat making up its mind what it's going to do next, and each little being separate from other beings, different, each one with its own distinctive personality. We live in a universe that's worth getting up for every day. We live in an earth that's worth getting up for. When you realize that everything has consciousness, and then you begin to realize these, I would call them staggering implications of everything having consciousness, your eyes open, and you realize that, wow, I never saw things this way. This is the universe that Jesus and the Buddha knew. This is the universe the mystics know. This is the universe that the shamans know how to access the powers of. The shamans draw their strength and their power from this universe. This is the universe that lets intent work. If you get good with intent, you can shape your whole lives without the least effort. You just give your intent to the universe, and the universe will work it out for you. This is the universe that the ancient matriarchies knew, that the ancient feminine mystery schools knew. The mystery schools were devoted to how can we experience spirit at deeper and deeper levels in physical form. And we're dedicated to opening up our faculties. This is the universe that the feminine knows, that deep down all women know. The men have to catch up. The men have to get out of their minds, come down from their ivory towers, and let their children and their pets and the women in their lives open their eyes. Get out of your empty offices, your sterile laboratories, the places, the institutions that we are all in these days, and take a walk on the wild side, knowing what's available out there. That spirit is everywhere. Now, what is the real meaning of all these catastrophes that human beings have caused for the planet? We are in a day of reckoning. It's wake-up time, big time, to both what we have been doing here, what is happening, and what we need to be doing. And so I'm rewriting all of our fundamental ways of thinking along lines of honoring the planet as being a sacred and a divine being, and ourselves, and the animals, and the trees, and everything. There is no reason to do this kind of, this is us, they are them, enemies and friends, either or. This is an inclusive logic, both and. This is a feminine logic. Nietzsche is the person who declared God is dead. He's the philosopher that declared God is dead. Everybody knows this assertion. One of his later writings, Nietzsche said, well, the old God isn't dead, he's just sleeping. And one of these days, he will re-emerge on the other side of good and evil. Well, on the other side of good and evil is love, the opposites. Love that can hold both opposites without having to define itself in one of them or the other. This is the great receptive love consciousness of the feminine that's down there under the whole of reality. And this is the reality that feminine consciousness knows, and the whole emerging sense of the feminine, of just what it is, and of who, what, and what women are, can reshape, our feminine ways of knowing, I would call them. Our feminine ways of knowing can reshape all of our thought traditions, all of our really sick ways of both acting and being and knowing. And as the past, the winter, has been all bound up with the values of men, aggression, death and destruction, the usual story that's going around us in the modern world. So the future of human life on earth will be bound up, I dare say, with the values and the ways of knowing and being that come with women and with the earth and with the feminine, and the recognition of the feminine as a principle that is so fundamental and so essential that it really is, it's the key to the redemption of the human race, basically. Especially in the West, we come out of an absolute one-sided tradition of the masculine that has now bequeathed to us a dead world, the masculine out of all relationship with the feminine. It's time to bring in the feminine to restore the balance. That's what's happening, really happening in the modern world. When I say love is now on top of things, a lot of the death and destruction of the modern world is, part of it is because this old male impulse is threatened and running scared, worse than ever. But the other part of it It owes to the light that's coming in. It's the light and the love that are surfacing the darkness before them. And so there's a few new ideas for you. Now, what's really going on in these catastrophes? Well, first of all, they tell us that we're not thinking right, either about the earth or ourselves. And if we've made a mess of the earth, we can count that our universe pictures are also not right, because there's a deep connection. But what's really happening is we're in a spiritual time when Spirit is making a whole new revelation of divinity, as what I've been spelling out here. Spirit is making a new revelation of its being, of who, what, and where it is. Now, the order of Spirit always confounds the order of men. It confounds the man-made world. The whole of Scripture is laced with this inversion of order, this inversion of reality. The stone rejected by the builders. Jesus is referred to as the stone rejected by the builders. The King of Kings is born in a barn and dies the death of a criminal on a cross. A man who never wrote a word founds a whole civilization. The ones you look down upon are sent to renew you. The last shall be first, and the first last. The answers that we need and seek, and the balance that we require, the new balance between the feminine and the masculine, are not in the high culture of the West, for sure, and a lot of the East. They are not in the male fabricated religions and the male fabricated ways of looking at the earth and the world, or technology with its ethics. If you can do it, do it. That's driving us. They are not in that high culture. They are in everything that high culture has pushed away, pushed down, and buried. And now they're coming back in. The women had something right. When the goddess presided here, the earth was not degraded. Societies were healthy, harmonious, happy. When the male impulse took control, the wholesale destruction of the planet began, and it has continued unabated to the present day. When women hold the planet, societies are harmonious, happy, and peaceful. When men control the planet, it's just the opposite. Drought, famine, disease, the destruction of the earth, the collapsing ecosystem, and the kind of hubris that hangs onto these old paradigms. This is going on everywhere now. We are called to move from the fear and into the love. These old attitudes are being clung to. They're fear-based, and they're being held out of fear. We're all being called to go on, continue, making a space for our fears, moving into love. And it has to do with the feminine. It has to do with the earth. I'm going to talk about the difference in values and how gender-based really the catastrophe we're looking at that's happening all around us is. But I would say this is actually a new revelation of divinity, who can't seem to get through to us any other way than by throwing a great storm in our direction, or cutting down a rainforest to the point where we realize we're just about to do ourselves in. It's like Spirit is making a new revelation. And so let me just end by saying, well, what are we all here for? The human race has spent centuries gazing at heaven, looking toward heaven. Earth was just a way station on getting to heaven. Earth was something to be beaten up, basically, in order to win merit for getting to heaven. Well, at this point, it is not about gazing heavenwards. Our task on earth at this point in our history is to bring spirit here. Bring spirit down from its place up in heaven. Bring it into the earth and into our world. Part of this, as I have been talking about, is showing that spirit is here. And the other part is asking each one of us, how do I most bring spirit here? And I would say, start rebuilding from the base. Take a look at the earth around you. Take a look at how you're thinking, how you're treating the people around you, how you're treating your pets. Are you giving them a good experience on the earth plane or a wretched one? The terrible man-made catastrophes that are happening everywhere, the refugee camps, the rebellions, the revolutions. An old impulse has run out. That's what we're looking at, the dregs of an old impulse. But the new is coming in. And you need to go where you're finding the love, the life, and the light. Go where you're finding the new energies. Spirit is once again confounding the order of men. And at this point, it's very much not simply a human order. It's a male-given and male-dominated order. And the redemption of the world and the earth depends on women, the feminine, consciousness, the earth, waking up to the truth of who we are and the reality around us. And so we're here at this point, bring spirit to earth. We're here to co-create with spirit something beautiful for everything on planet Earth. Beautiful for the animals, the people, everyone. And we're here to realize on the earth plane, which is the plane of fear and separation. We all are born into the confines of a little separate body. It's time to, what we're really wanting to do is to realize on earth, which is the plane of fear and separation, the joy, the love, the connectedness, and the wisdom of the spirit world from whence we come. And in fact, where we spend much more of our time than we even do on the earth plane. The trip is, the earth is where the trip is. It isn't about gazing heavenward any longer. It's about bringing spirit into earth and about daring to open ourselves up to what's really possible. And so once again, the truth is not in our high tradition. It is in the negligibles of history. The indigenous people, the earth, the women, the feminine. That they are, in fact, the rational modes have always despised what I call the outcast modes of knowing and of being. It has put them down. But the truth is that these modes, the shamanic, the mystical, the native, these modes are the rich soil and seedbed from which the rational modes themselves spring. And they are wider, richer term. And these are the modes of it, ways of experiencing and knowing of the heart conscious people. This is the universe that heart consciousness knows. The rational traditions tend to be head consciousness. And there's a very great gulf these days between what we have in our heads and the ground under our feet. They aren't even connected. And we have to flip the whole thing around because heart consciousness is the wider, richer, and more inclusive terms. And so what I'm offering you as a new science and a new religion and a new philosophy, I would say, I hope is not just real and true, but it's the life-giving, soul-nourishing revelation of being and of spirit that women know and that the heart consciousness knows. And head consciousness needs to catch up and realize there are much wider and richer ways of experiencing and knowing and valuing different values than what at present we are all being, our technological trance, we are all being driven by. And so once again, spirit is surfacing all of the negligibles of history because they have the key to health. They have the key to human health. And we don't know at this point what exactly is coming down on us. But it will help if we can get clear both of where we are and how we got here, and the kind of crazy thinking that we all come out of that celebrates itself as the highest of human achievement, but is really a very limited way of knowing in a great sea of love-light consciousness, of being and of the real. And so we are still being asked in the night to process our fears. Fear is up for us now for one reason, so we can get beyond it. Up until now, we were never forced to go beyond it. And at this point, if we don't get beyond it, then the human adventure here is shortly going to be over, because we will destroy the planet beyond its ability to support us. And so I just remind you what I said last time. When fear comes in the night, put your hand on your heart chakra. That's your unconditioned self. Plato had the right view, really, of human nature, of the human condition. Plato thought that we come from spirit worlds knowing everything, and then we are born into a little body and into our particular culture. And we put on the blinkers, we put on like horses blinkers, so that we forget everything we once knew. And we run around in the little terms of our culture about what's important and what isn't. And then later in life, if you're lucky, or you've finished the running around, or some teacher shows up that can show you the way, somebody takes the blinkers off, and then you see what's what. Now, all the things that I am describing that the universe really is it's what our unconditioned self knows. For our conditioned self, these things have to be, quote, proven. And that's a tension that has been set up in all of our thought, bitterly wedded to the matter mechanism mindset, and trying to prove reincarnation, put your hand on your heart chakra and see how obvious all the things I'm saying are, because this is the universe that all of us once knew. It's the universe our ancestors knew, and that when we were our ancestors, we know. And as a physicist friend of mine put it to me, somehow these ideas are just stunningly self-evident, because in fact this is what we knew. How does one know spirit? Through senses, souls, bodies, well below the level of mind. Mind is up here. All the rest of the deep psyche is the dimension and the level where we connect with spirit. Mystics of all cultures and climates call spirit simply the beloved, because the love of spirit is all around us. What we have done in the talk I've given today is find our way back into the arms of the beloved, from whence we tore ourselves so long ago, when we made that fateful, monumental initial decision to take ourselves out of nature and to define ourselves as something against nature, ultimately, as in the modern world, to end up by making war on nature. And we are being compelled to go beyond into the arms of the living God, the true God, Spirit, who is the beloved. Spirit is everywhere. Spirit is the beloved. Everybody has access to Spirit. Spirit withholds itself from no one. The only thing that keep us from these deep and rich ways of knowing, and from a deep experience of Spirit, are ideas, are the concepts are limiting concepts, scientific materialism, the matter mechanism mindset, technological ways of thinking, the chance and necessity universe. And so that's it. That's what I wanted to say today. And now we'll go on from here, because once we get the right perspective on ourselves and the earth, a lot of other things are going to make sense. I propose that this term consciousness has staggering implications for just about every department of thought, every way of being. The notion that all energy contains consciousness, that idea alone will change our world forever. The idea that every little bit of matter contains consciousness, that even the least little bit of matter is in fact an expression of consciousness. Those ideas will change our world forever. The greatest problems of the human race, and really its only problem, is spiritual ignorance of who it is, of who and what and where spirit is, what the earth is, or what the universe is. If we can form some good and clear notions about the true, the real, and the beautiful, we'll get everything else right also. Religion. The term religion comes from two words, re legare. It means to reconnect. It means to retie the tie, that we once had a tie, and somehow we broke it, or it was broken. The Garden of Eden is a kind of mythical description of losing our connection, of losing our tie. What the views of the earth I'm giving are the basis for finding our way back into the Garden of Eden. Only the human was expelled from paradise. The animals, the trees, the plants are all still there, and they'll show us the way back. Beyond them and us, enemies and friends, either or thinking, into oneness, the traditional great receptive love consciousness of the feminine. This term consciousness, it's the light. It's the ultimate principle of knowing and of being. It's the wand of Isis, who lifts her veils for all of us these days. It's the light in dark times. It's the light of the world. It's the key to a new viable relationship, to our own masculine and feminine, to the planet, to each other. Re legare, re-tie the tie. What I have done is take down the barricades that men have placed between ourselves and the earth, ourselves and one another. The whole of religious thinking is an elaboration of the male mind, and it suffers from certain limitations of the mind. All of our male thought traditions are looking at God through the lenses of the masculine. What I am doing, in fact, is looking at spirit through the lenses of the feminine. It's a different lens, and it's a different way of knowing and of being. Feminine being tends to be about beingness, whereas males are all caught up in doing. These two great principles have to be recognized in the modern world, and they have to come into a new balance. Okay, what is that balance? The balance between the masculine and the feminine is right when the feminine is recognized as the wider and richer term, when it holds and when the masculine is held and contained by the feminine in a wider, richer synthesis. Our little Cartesian world contained in the truth of the greater universe that is consciousness, not matter, mechanism, and mathematics. The balance is right when the masculine is held in a wider synthesis. Now, a great many men do not want to hear this. In fact, a great many women do not want to hear this, but it's so. And in fact, the ancient yin-yang symbol, where the opposites, in which each symbol contains a drop of the other, which makes it possible for one principle to understand the other, they are contained in a circle, and the circle has been since ancient times the symbol for the feminine. There it is. And so the redemption that Spirit is now offering to the human race is that it recognizes the validity of women in their own right, not simply because they can think in men's terms. In their own right, they begin to get acquainted with it. They start seeing the world, the earth, through new lenses, and they bring in the feminine in themselves and in society, and so this is a new redemption, and it's a new salvation of men and male history by women, of the masculine by the feminine, and of everyone and everything by a new religious revelation about who we are and who, what, and where Spirit is. That we are spiritual beings in physical form. That we are incarnations of expressions of Spirit. We are incarnations of Spirit who reincarnate. We are eternal, immortal, spiritual beings who reincarnate and come to earth for a relatively short cosmic period of earthly lives, at the end of which we leave for other parts of the physical universes, or go into purely spiritual realms. It's a very fabulous universe. And that's a new redemption and a new salvation by the feminine principle. This universe, the esoteric traditions of the West have always known. The alchemists know. Jung described the magnum opus of the alchemist, the great work of the alchemist, as, quote, the salvation of the cosmos and the transformation of the self. I began these talks. We are living in a cosmos that badly needs saving. And if we can think through the ideas that we have been opening up to in these talks, if we can realize the truth of some of these ideas, even one of them, like all energy contains consciousness, we are not the same self who started off in our little Cartesian matter mechanism mindset, which is where I started off in my life, and have found my way beyond. And so we're back up on the heights. We're out of Plato's cave. We're Yano, back from the world below. We're Persephone, up from the underworld. The name Arwyn comes from the original ring legend, the Fellowship of the Ring. Everybody knows this work in the modern world, the Ring Fellowship. In the early editions of the Ring, as a Celtic tale that comes down to us, the decisive battle in the campaign for Mordor is fought and won by a woman who's called Arwyn. At one extreme of her nature, she is conversant with magic and mysteries and all of the mysteries of creation. At the other extreme of her nature, she is the greatest swordswoman of her day, the equal of any man. She fights and wins the campaign for Mordor, and she herself is wounded in the fight and falls into a deep faint. When she awakens and is told the battle is won, she is absolutely exultant. First, because the campaign against Mordor has been won, and second, she says, and I did it as a woman. My turning point came out of the matter mechanism mindset when I began to meet with a very little group of women and to take a look at the whole of my education, which was in all of the male thought traditions, science, philosophy, religion, and the modern world. I end this talk by returning to Descartes. I have the greatest affection for this great philosopher. Descartes prized clear and distinct ideas as a sign of truth. It was as a young man when he was traveling with the army that he found himself stranded in a foreign town with nothing to do but think. It was in a bare room lit by a candle. He had nothing to do, and he started to fool around with ideas. And in a couple of nights, he worked out the whole thought foundation of the modern world and this distinction between mind and matter. Now, the Tucson Conference Towards a Science of Consciousness has been meeting for the last 20 years with, as yet, no science of consciousness even in sight. I say that by this time it should occur to everyone that maybe they should take a look at our fundamental premises, because maybe there's something wrong with our questions. Maybe we're starting off on the wrong foot. And so the conference is built, the great question of the conference, how does matter give rise to emotions, ideas, and experience? Well, the simple truth is it doesn't. It's all the other way around. And the reason that we have no science of consciousness as yet is the refusal to give up, first, the conviction that consciousness is something produced by neurons. Second, that consciousness is something produced by matter. And third, that it's only in us and not in everything else. Those three fundamental assumptions are completely false. They've been held for so long and so tightly that they seem like facts. It's like, the neurons produce consciousness. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. God doesn't like sex. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. It's the everybody knows symbol. Descartes prized clear and distinct ideas, and he had them. If we can be clear now, it's because he was so clear in his formulations. Descartes could outthink virtually any modern philosopher, and has a way of bearing his own undertakers. Descartes formulated mind-body dualism, mind and matter. But he himself was a dualist. It's very clear in the meditations. He thought there were minds and body, and they had to interact in the pineal gland in some way. He chose the pineal gland because it seemed to him that the pineal gland was the single structure, rather than not two halves of the brain. He spent a lot of time in the meditations trying to figure out how they could interact. But Descartes is really the father of physical realism, the conviction that physical reality is what's really real, whatever it is, and it produces everything else. His age was high on physical realism. It was called Cartesianism. They were high on physical realism. And so have the last 300 years has been almost drunk on physical realism. Rumor has it that Descartes' followers went about kicking dogs just to hear them howl, reasoning that their howls weren't due to any feelings of pain, because they had no inner life, they were just machines. They were a function of the wiring of the machinery, Well, this is what we've been doing to the planet ever since. And at this point, the planet is not going to take it anymore. Now, by the end of his life, Descartes guided his whole life by his vivid dreams. Toward the end of his life, he had this dream. He saw the universe as a great machine, and in the center of the universe, propelling the whole, was consciousness. Out of the shades and shadows and into the light of day. By the end of his life, Descartes knew what the real fundamental term was. Virtually no one knows this about Descartes. He knew that the fundamental principle of the universe is consciousness. And this little matter mechanism, male-dominated, mind-given universe we all live in, is fine. It's just very limited. And now it's time to go completely beyond it. Okay, that's what I have to say. And when fear comes in the night, put your hand on your heart chakra. Just hold yourself. None of us ever got enough holding as kids. Just hold yourself. Or reach out and make a phone call to a friend. You're not alone. You're not alone. And there are always spirit beings with you. You have your own spirit guides. You're well anchored into the reality. Our fears come because we're separated, because we have a feeling of separation. Love is about connecting, and it's about the existence of connectedness. And that's all I have to say for now. I want to say one more thing, actually. No, I'm going to save that. I have other things to say about science and great scientists, but we'll return to them at a later date. What I'm actually doing is spelling out the universe that the mystics and the shamans and the feminine and the native people know. And so I'm replacing the great mathematical vision of nature that's open mainly to scientists with a mystical vision that's open to everyone. The great mathematical vision that began with Euclid and Pythagoras, given modern form by Descartes, and the great history of male thinkers, open only to scientists, and has now getting us into deep trouble with the planet, which does not simply function according to the weighable, the measurement, and the mathematical, replacing it with a mystical view of things that's open to everybody. We live in a fabulous universe worth getting up for every day. Get out of your little fabricated, man-made world and step into being, into the real, where the fundamental term is consciousness. And then I would say the attributes of spirit after that, which organize and arrange the whole of physical reality. Love, life, light, our personal power, peace, beauty, and joy. Those are the things that are real. They're the things that neuroscientists just love to tell people, oh, they're not real, what's real are the neurons. Those are the things that are real. And you need to find your way back into the ultimate sources of your own health, which are to reconnect with the real. And so we have, what we are doing in thinking about consciousness is retying the tie, reconnecting ourselves with the spirit who is the beloved and who is everywhere. Everything and everywhere. There's not much else you need to know for your life. Spirit is love, spirit is everything and everywhere. Spirit is here. And this gives you a kind of self-acceptance, because these deep love layers withhold themselves from no one. You can just use your intent, go there. Spirit is everywhere and spirit is here. There are the basis for a new and true world. a technology that can be put at the service of truly higher values, earth-sensitive, earth-honoring values, economies that are not based and require the destruction of the planet, that are based on the truth of the earth as conscious, living, connected, spiritual, and divine beings. And our own life projects not being run by the matter mechanism clock, but as the native people knew time, a kind of endless present. As the very embodiment of the infinite. And I'm proposing actually a new science based on a new fundamental term, consciousness, and through that term based on the true fundamental principle of the universe, which is spirit, and of course with spirit come a whole new set of questions, like, well, how does spirit incarnate itself in physical form? How do I reincarnate? I mean, it opens, it's a lot of the old questions that have puzzled the mind for so long simply fall away. And we are open to new questions, new ways of thinking and of being and of knowing. And so that's it for today.